Unsolved.
JonBenet Ramsey case. Did Patsy know? This episode is pretty straightforward. Did Patsy know that John molested JonBenet? That John killed JonBenet? Is it possible that John could do these things and Patsy not know? And the world not know? And the police not know? The autopsy makes it quite clear that JonBenet had been molested. And so that doesn't prove that John Ramsey did it, but it does raise suspicion, and it would give him a motive if something went wrong. But this video is about, would Patsy have known that John killed JonBenet that night? In my humble opinion, John Ramsey could have easily, that night, after Patsy went to bed, assaulted and murdered JonBenet. The question is more in the morning. Could he have deceived Patsy and gotten away with this murder? And I'm looking at this as it was an accidental death in the sense that something unexpected happened and then John killed JonBenet. Who knew for certain who would come down the stairs that morning? And when we read this ransom letter now, is it possible that it was written to Patsy? We represent a foreign faction. We have your daughter. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. You stand a 99% chance. You stand a 100% chance of getting her back. Use that good southern common sense of yours. Did Patsy believe the ransom note? Well, according to her, she didn't even finish reading the ransom note and ran up to check on JonBenet and see if she was there. And JonBenet wasn't. And according to Burke, Patsy then went into his room, looked around, and came out. That morning, Patsy might have said to John, "I'm going to call the police." And John responded, "Call the police." And then Patsy called 911, and we've heard that recording. Then she called one of her friends and shouted at them to come over. She needed them. And then she called another friend and asked for them to come over. So it does seem like she believed the ransom note. Now the police and the detectives, they arrive at the Ramsey place and they see the ransom note for the first time. So the ransom note is brought to their attention 8 o'clock in the morning. But then John Ramsey goes downstairs and brings up JonBenet's dead, stiff body. So in their mind, it's obvious that the ransom note was written after JonBenet's death. So they can see clearly that this is suspicious. Not only that, but JonBenet's body is found in the house. Maybe JonBenet has been kept in a neighbor's basement. Maybe she's taken in a van. Maybe she's found a day later at the side of a creek. That's what generally happens in these kind of ransom situations or child abduction. But here they find JonBenet's body in the house. How can anyone not see that this is not suspicious? Well, John didn't find it suspicious that she was in the basement. He even said that he was under the impression that she might still be alive. Yet, he picked up her dead body, her stiff body, and carried it upstairs away from himself and placed it on the floor. Shouldn't Patsy have been thinking, I hope JonBenet is still alive. I hope they don't kill her. I hope she's okay. I hope we can... Patsy, JonBenet's been found dead in the basement. She's in the living room. We need you. We need you to go into the living room. JonBenet's in there. Now, at this point, if Patsy truly believed that JonBenet had been taken, she should have been questioning what's going on. How can JonBenet now be dead, stiff, lying in my living room? So what are you thinking right now? Did Patsy know? If she didn't do this crime, did she suspect John of writing the ransom note? Did she suspect John of molesting JonBenet? Did she suspect John of murdering JonBenet that night? Well, this ends this episode, and I hope you found this episode interesting. And I'd like to hear your comments. And remember, tomorrow night, the Zodiac Killer case.